South Africa can trust you if for some reason you ended up being in charge?
Oh yes, I don't steal. I've never been involved in corruption. You can check my history of the last 40 years in the ANC.
In South African politics, corruption is a norm. It's the name of the game. With leaders who have risen up the ranks through their efforts in the anti-apartheid run seeming to have forgotten what they fought for. Deputy President Paul Mashatile, often seen as the potential future president, lives a life that merges the glory of power with the whispers of scandal. Behind the marble floors of a 37 million rands mansion in the waterfall estates of Midrand lies a series of controversies that raise pressing questions. From billions of state rands being handed to businesses of family and friends of Mashatile through departments he oversaw in his time as MEC, to having links to the infamous Sodi, who faces charges of corruption and fraud for the 255 million rands Free State asbestos contract.
Politically connected businessman Sodi has had his luxury sports cars seized. The asset forfeiture unit swooped in and attached the vehicles owned by Sodi and his company Blackhead Consulting. They include a Ferrari valued at around 3 million rand and a Bentley valued at more than 3 million rand as well.
And now surviving assassination attempts that have had the public more skeptic than sympathetic, for good reason. You see, the past Easter Sunday, Deputy President Paul Mashatile attended a service at the Kwazulu-Natal mission in KwaMaphumulo, Kwazulu-Natal. During his visit, Mashatile expressed admiration for the mission's community work, particularly its agricultural projects, and announced plans for government partnership to expand these initiatives.
I was particularly moved about what they are doing. The work started by Umfundisi Stegen some years ago, about 1962, teaching people to really help themselves, plowing, planting vegetables and all sort of things.
This is the same Kwazulu-Natal church that has faced serious allegations including decades of sexual abuse to members, lack of child protection measures, manipulation of estates, and the monitoring of families of the ANC activists, only to provide information to the National Party's security branch and military intelligence. This simply means people on the run from the state were welcomed to Kwazulu-Natal and given refuge, only to be arrested by apartheid authorities in the middle of the night. Mashatile's decision to engage with the Kwazulu-Natal mission has raised questions about his political judgment and sensitivity to past abuses. And just when he was getting heat and backlash for that, he dropped a bomb on us. On March the 30th, 2025, Mashatile was traveling on the N12 highway after attending an ANC National Executive Committee meeting at the Birchwood Hotel in Boksburg. He stated his official bulletproof vehicle came under fire from unidentified gunmen. Initially, Mashatile believed the vehicle had been struck by stones, but upon further inspection, it was confirmed that the car had been hit by bullets.
What happened is that as I was driving from the NEC, my car was hit what initially I thought it was stones. And when we got home, the protectors said no, the impact is too much. They want to take it for checking because, you know, a bulletproof windscreen is quite strong to be damaged. And that's why they are doing the investigation.
Not only does that story not make sense, but its timing raised eyebrows. What kind of hitman shoots at a bulletproof vehicle? Why wasn't it reported when it happened? Why didn't the president at least say anything? And why only tell the nation in a time of public scrutiny? Those are just a few of the most recent allegations, and I tell you, there are many. Hey, it's Mike, you can call me Ski, and today we're taking a deep dive into the corruption surrounding Deputy President Paul Mashatile. Before the controversies, Paul Mashatile was a son of Alexandra Township, a hotbed for resistance during apartheid. Born in 1961, Mashatile became politically active in his youth, joining the anti-apartheid movement through student organizations like the Congress of South African Students. He also co-founded the Alexandra Youth Congress in the 1980s and served as its first president in 1983. He was also a member of the United Freedom Front. He played a visible role in mobilizing resistance against the apartheid state. His activism drew the anger of the apartheid regime, leading to multiple detentions where he was held without trial under apartheid security laws, which were commonly used to suppress dissent. His rise within ANC began shortly after the party was unbanned in 1990. Mashatile served as a key figure in rebuilding the ANC structure in Gauteng and quickly became a prominent organizer. He held various party roles, including becoming the provincial secretary and later chairperson of the ANC in Gauteng. In the early parts of his career, he stayed loyal to his organization and built support from everyday people. Traits like that would help him ascend the political ladder, but also enmesh him in the complicated networks of loyalty and power. Over the years, he rotated through various MEC positions.
And in this regard, I've decided to appoint into the position of MEC Mr. Paul Mashatile, who you know is currently a member of National Parliament. He previously held several portfolios, which include safety and security, transport, housing, finance, and economic affairs. We also know that he was the Deputy Minister of Finance at some point. And lastly, he was the Minister of Arts and Culture.
He gradually amassed influence and entrenched himself within the provincial and eventually national power structures. But unsurprisingly, the same power would later be misused. I'm not the biggest readers, but books like The Wretched of the Earth by Frantz Fanon, a French West Indian psychiatrist, political philosopher, and Marxist, have shaped my outlook on politics. Basically, Fanon discusses how after decolonization, nationalist leaders can turn into the new elite, replicating colonial patterns of control and exploitation. He warns about the dangers of a national bourgeoisie replacing foreign rulers while maintaining the same oppressive structures. Power without transformation of institutions leads to internalized colonialism. Now I get it. It can be hard to wrap your head around this, especially when terms like Marxism and bourgeoisie are thrown around. But the central idea of Marxism or Marxists, like the late Chris Hani, are that if the working class makes itself the ruling class, there would be no social hierarchy or economic division based on ownership. Instead, the resources and means of production would be owned communally, leading to an equal distribution of goods and services based on need according to the principle, from each according to their ability to each according to their needs. This would result in a society where everyone enjoys the same level of access to resources and opportunities without class distinctions. Chris Hani saw Marxism not just as an economic theory, but as a framework for revolutionary change in South Africa. He believed that the struggle against apartheid could not be separated from the struggle against capitalism. For him, racial oppression and economic exploitation were intertwined, and more than 30 years later, it's clear he was onto something. I wasn't born or even a thought when Chris Hani was assassinated, but learning about him and his ideologies in my free time made me look a little closer into a possible betrayal that could have led to his death. So if you want to see that, make sure you like and sub to not miss any future content. In 2006, as finance MEC, Mashatile hosted a dinner at the elite signature restaurant in Sandton. The cost, a staggering 96,000 rands for a single night. In the months that followed, his entertainment expenses totaled over 250,000 rands. Though the Gauteng Integrity Commissioner cleared him of misconduct, the optics were disastrous. At a time when many South Africans struggled with basic necessities, the thought of a government official splurging taxpayer money on luxury was infuriating. This incident was not just about financial excess, it was about tone-deaf leadership. It reflected a disconnect between the ruling elite and the citizenry, reinforcing the narrative of an out-of-touch political class, insulated from the struggles of everyday South Africans. And around that time, whispers about an Alex Mafia were heard. In 2007, the Mail and Guardian newspaper identified Mashatile as a leading figure in the so-called Alex Mafia, a network of politicians and entrepreneurs from the Alexandra township. In a country still grappling with inequality, the image of Paul Mashatile residing in a mansion worth 37 million rand strikes a chord of discomfort. The house, purchased by his son-in-law, Nceba Nonkwelo, came under scrutiny when it was revealed that Nonkwelo's company had benefited from public sector funding. Nonkwelo Investments, the company owned by Nceba, received at least 4 loans from the Gauteng Partnership Fund, totaling approximately 30 million rands between 2013 and 2017, overlapping with Mashatile's second stint as Human Settlements MEC. The primary purpose of these loans was to finance the development of a student accommodation project in Highlands, Johannesburg, known as Hunter Heights. This project was part of the GPF's Entrepreneur Empowerment Property Fund program, which aimed to support historically disadvantaged individuals in entering the affordable housing rental market. More than a decade later, the project remains undeveloped, and an investigation revealed significant issues with the project. It found that the project was not financially viable and that the GPF's approval of the loan was deemed possibly reckless and not in the fund's best interest.
Now, Gauteng Human Settlements and Infrastructure MEC Lebogang Maile wants an urgent probe into the 37 million rand waterfall mansion linked to Deputy President Paul Mashatile. The multi-million rand house is registered on a 99-year lease to Legacy Properties. The sole directors of Legacy Properties, by the way, are Mashatile's son Thabiso and his son-in-law Nceba Nonkwelo.
The spokesperson, Vugani Mde, said that at the time the move was a result of serious threats to Mashatile and his family's safety from a former girlfriend, Gugu Nkosi. The DA lodged a complaint with Parliament's Joint Committee of Ethics and Membership's Interests. Their argument that Mashatile not only misled Parliament but may have violated the members' code of conduct by not declaring assets linked to his immediate family. In politics, perception is reality, and the perception here is that Mashatile has something to hide. Why I say this and what complicated the matter further is the strategic nature of the ownership of the house, placing the property in the name of a relative with government ties, thereby creating a firewall between himself and the assets. Additionally, if there were to be a court order for asset seizure, it would be far more difficult to confiscate property that Mashatile does not legally own. Mamkize, take notes. Edwin Sodi's name also emerged as a key link in Mashatile's circle. Sodi, charged with corruption and fraud in the 255 million rands Free State asbestos contract, is not just any businessman. He's a politically connected operator with ties to several ANC figures, including Mashatile.
Is it quid pro quo or just philanthropy? The State Capture Inquiry has heard how a slew of ANC bigwigs and the party itself received millions in donations and payments from Edwin Sodi. He's the director of Blackhead Consulting, the company that jointly won the 2014 Free State asbestos project tender.
Edwin Sodi has pleaded not guilty to charges of money laundering, fraud and corruption in connection with the controversial tender, alongside former Free State Premier Ace Magashule, who was accused of orchestrating a scheme that diverted public funds intended for the removal of the hazardous asbestos from houses in the province's poorest communities. The 255 million contract was awarded in 2014 to a joint venture between Sodi's Blackhead Consulting and Diamond Hill Trading, owned by the late businessman Igor Mpambani. The state alleges that the contract was irregularly awarded, with kickbacks provided to some of the accused. Instead of effectively removing asbestos from about 30,000 houses, only 21 million rands worth of the work was reportedly completed, with the remainder of the funds being allegedly misappropriated. Asbestos is a naturally occurring mineral once widely used in construction and manufacturing for its durability and resistance to heat. However, it was found that it poses serious health risks when its fibers become airborne and are inhaled. These illnesses include asbestosis, a chronic lung disease caused by the scarring of lung tissue, mesothelioma, a rare and aggressive cancer that affects the lining of the lungs, and many more illnesses that can affect the abdomen and heart. In effect, this isn't white-collar crime. It's corruption with direct health consequences to potentially hundreds of thousands of South Africans of the Free State living in these old public housing units. Now, the connection with Mashatile. Reports allege that Mashatile stayed in properties linked to Sodi and other business people who've benefited from government contracts. Mashatile told the Ethics Committee he stayed at the Sodi Rifton property for social visits, but that's not the most controversial part. Between February 2015 and September 2016, Edwin Sodi made 15 payments totaling approximately 371,555 rands to Paul Mashatile. These transactions were highlighted during the Zondo Commission, which investigated state capture and corruption in South Africa.
The payment of 371,553 rand to Paul Mashatile, what is that about?
That's a payment that was made directly to the ANC. Maybe I must just qualify that I'm not a card-carrying member of the ANC, but I support the ANC.
Mashatile acknowledged receiving these funds, but maintained they were intended for the ANC, not for personal benefits. He stated that the payments were deposited into the party's accounts and were used for organizational purposes.
I'm sure I know him for more than 20 years. I don't know him because I'm deputy president. In fact, since I'm deputy president, I haven't even been to his house. I have not been to anybody's house. But I think it will be unfair for me to say I don't know him, because now I'm deputy president. I don't know this man. No, I do. But remember, I don't condone whatever they allege he did.
This relationship raised concerns about influence peddling and soft corruption, where favors are exchanged in donations rather than cash, cloaked in layers of deniability. It also raises the specter of a shadow network, where political power and business interests intertwine so deeply that accountability becomes a distant dream. If a deputy president is cozying up to individuals under investigation, what does that say about the culture of governance at the highest level? During his tenure as Gauteng MEC for Human Settlements, Mashatile oversaw a department riddled with allegations of mismanagement, as we've already found out. A notable red flag was a law firm partially owned by one of his close friends, receiving a staggering 337 million rands in contracts from the very department he controlled. And you may ask, who is this close friend? It's none other than Mike Maile, the same Mike who has been linked to the Alex Mafia. While investigations cleared Mashatile of direct wrongdoings, the smoke remains. Perhaps the most emotionally charged controversy surrounding Mashatile is the alleged misappropriation of funds from the Alexandra Renewal projects.
As you can see on my left, there's been lots of shake, and you can see here the water's running down the streets. This is part of the sewage. And because when people wash their dishes or they do wash something, there's no drain to pour this water in. They just pour this water on the street.
Launched in the early 2000s, the project was envisioned as a transformative investment in one of Gauteng's most impoverished townships. But by 2019, questions started to come in. What happened to the 1.3 billion earmarked for the project?
But if you say there is corruption, then that's another discussion. Who is corrupt? How have they been corrupt? And then the public might not have that information in detail, but they might know that no, this person, the lifestyle changed, this and that. So there must be some basis, and then we can do a forensic. The narrative is that 1.3 billion is stolen. So we are saying from where we are sitting, we can account for that money. And these are the projects that were done. But in the process of executing those projects, we don't know what else happened. There could have been money that got lost. We don't know how much is it and all that. And that's why we welcome the investigation of the mayor.
As MEC for Human Settlements during much of this period, Mashatile became a focal point for criticism, and being from Alex himself made it worse. The EFF accused him of being in charge of a corrupt government department where money was stolen and no one was held responsible.
If you want to know what the ANC has done, come to Alexandra. What is it that the ANC has done? Has done nothing. That's why you will find nothing in Alexandra. Billions ditwile barona le Alexandra Renewal. When Alex was turning 100 years, we don't see any renewal yet. All we see is an abandoned place, a place of forgotten people.
In response, Mashatile filed a 2 million rand defamation lawsuit against the EFF. a move that silenced a few but only intensified public inspection into the matter. The communities of Alex regularly stage protests against poor service delivery, organized crime, and drug use. Many residents of Alexandra still live in terrible apartheid-like conditions and have seen little evidence of the promised future. Mashatile's decision to engage with the Kwazulu-Natal mission, in my opinion, was one of the most brain-dead decisions, especially when the ANC's already poor reputation is on the line.
We saw the Premier of the province of KwaZulu-Natal, Premier Sihlezi over the weekend. He defended the church, saying that those retailers that have came out and boycotted the supply or the products that are coming from this place following the allegations should stop, because that is equal to sabotaging the provincial and the country's economy.
In late 2020, major retailers such as Pick n Pay, Woolworths, Macro, Spar and Food Lovers Market suspended sales of Aquile products. This action followed a News 24 expose detailing allegations of physical, sexual and psychological abuse, as well as financial misconduct within the Kwazulu-Natal mission. Former members have testified about beatings, sexual assaults and coercive practices.
It was quite shocking and painful because it's all true. One felt like you were reliving all of that, even thinking about the other people who I know who are from there and their reaction to how the story has come out now is the same. You know, it's shocking and it's re-traumatizing. We're basically going through it all over again. So
the Commission for the Promotion and Protection of Rights of Cultural, Religious and Linguistic Communities conducted investigations into these claims, highlighting the severity of the alleged abuses.
The mission is to apologize to the complainants and or former members for the hurt which they could have caused as a result of the practices of the mission.
And amid the most recent assassination attempts on the Deputy President, the ANC called for calm and urged the public to allow law enforcement agencies to conduct a thorough investigation. Mashatile addressed the incident publicly during a visit to Greater Ivory Park Zone 15 in Soweto.
You must have heard that the police are investigating.
Paul Mashatile's journey is one that mirrors the contradictions of modern South Africa, a country still striving for equality, yet plagued by the ghosts of patronage and political excess. This story is not merely about one man, but about the system that allows such stories to repeat. As the nation looks ahead to its next chapter, the question remains, will South Africa confront the uncomfortable truths of its leadership, or will it continue to uphold power draped in luxury, ignoring the cracks beneath the gold veneer?